Доброго дня, шановні пані та панове! Вітаємо вас на другому міжнародному форумі фахівців англійської мови, організованому Київським національним торговельно-економічним університетом, освітньою корпорацією Pearson та компанією Decentralization Education, яка є ексклюзивним представником Pearson на Україні. Мене звати Світлана Сорочинська, я є головний методист Decentralization Education, і протягом наступних 2 днів я із великим задоволенням буду виконувати роль ведучої цього великого заходу. Since our event is a truly international one, I'll be speaking Ukrainian and English, so welcome everyone to the second forum for ELT Professionals, and we are ready to start our opening ceremony. Дозвольте запросити до слова ректора Київського національного торговельно-економічного університету Мазаракі Анатолія Антоновича.
Доброго дня, щиро дякую за тепле привітання. Вельмишановні гості, вельмишановні колеги, для мене дійсно і велика честь, і радість сьогодні вітати вас з відкриттям вже другого форуму. Ми в цій залі в стінах нашого університету з вами зустрічаємося вже вдруге. Пройшов рік, і ми вже можемо оцінити результати вашої роботи. Я, як ректор нашого університету, оцінюю їх край позитивно, тому що поліпшилося викладання англійської мови для студентів всіх спеціальностей, і, зокрема, по спеціальності англійська філологія. Розширилося коло англомовних програм, тепер ми вже маємо 9 магістерських, 2 бакалаврських програми, які викладаються англійською мовою. Це, окрім того, що нові можливості для наших студентів дозволило збільшити коло іноземних студентів, до речі, і цим шляхом будемо рухатися і далі. Я хочу подякувати нашим фірмам-організаторам за їх наполегливу працю, за можливість створити умови для викладачів і все ж таки для піднесення вашої нелегкої викладацької праці. Успіхів вам!
Thank you very much. I would like to introduce our next speaker. We are pleased to welcome Smirnov Alexander Olegovich, Higher and Adult Education Doctorate in the Ministry of Education of Ukraine. Welcome.
On behalf of the Ministry of Education in Ukraine, it's my pleasure to welcome all of you here on the second forum already. And it's a great pleasure to all of you that you gather here, and 700 people already, organizers said, gather here, and I very well impressed that English knowledge in Ukrainian university will first because of you and because of organizers. Special thanks for the rector of University Economic of Trade, Anatoly Antonovich Mazaraki, and especially in case of European integration and Bologna process implementation since 2005, Ukrainian universities take possibilities to participate in quantity of European programs and mobility programs and so on and so far. And one of the biggest problem of participation of Ukrainian representatives there is English language skills. And special thanks for the Pearson education that this is a second organizational forum that will force English skills in Ukraine. I believe that in future we will take more possibilities for Ukrainians from ministry. We take those possibilities and bringing into university. For Erasmus Plus program, we have special mobility window for the next 2 years with 5 million euro per mobility programs and capacity programs, capacity building in higher education. And to participate in these programs, Ukrainian teachers, Ukrainian staff should get good knowledge in English. So thanks all of you to be here, and I wish you 2 days with pleasant work and very impressive speakers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, our very special guest from the British Embassy, Kyiv, Kathy Cottrell, First Secretary Energy Policy and Head of Commercial Section at the British Embassy, Kyiv.
Good morning, everybody. And on behalf of the British Embassy in Kiev and the Department of International Trade, I'm delighted to welcome you to the second forum for ELT Professionals organised by Pearson, a British multinational company with 174 years of history and experience. Pearson is now a global education provider with 30,000 employees in 70 countries and 100 companies associated with content delivery, assessment and qualifications. Pearson deliver their products and services to 75 million learners around the world. And I know that today we'll see how they bring together leading names in education to make learning more engaging and effective. By bringing together these international assessments and education experts, Pearson are developing world-class qualifications that empower learners to develop important skills to make progress in their lives through learning. Pearson have set a new gold standard in education with unrivaled support for teachers and students every step of the way. Great Britain has made its mark in the Ukrainian education market in many sectors, from language training to various professional qualifications. Pearson's education, experience and reputation is among the best proof of that. A close relationship with the Ministry of Education and all the educational bodies here has helped to design and implement the teacher training programs and teacher support required by this education system. Quality materials published by Pearson have helped a great number of students pass their exams successfully, both international and national. Invariably, students achieve top places in national Olympiads, showing exceptional knowledge of language and culture, communicating their thoughts and ideas fluently. I'd like to highlight particularly the Pearson First Certificate for Teachers of Business English, FTBE, an international qualification that allows qualified general English teachers to gain a specialist qualification in teaching English for business purposes. Designed to broaden teachers' management skills, as well as their understanding of business practice, it prepares them to teach the growing numbers of learners who aspire to use English in a professional business context. This development is not only an important milestone that once again proves Pearson's commitment to the Ukrainian educational system, but along with other developments in the area, proves that the UK is affirming its presence along the whole education chain, from cartoons in young learners' textbooks and developing textbooks targeted at the Ukrainian market to crests on MBA diplomas. So I'd like to wish Pearson every success for its continuing work in Ukraine and a very successful and enjoyable day for everyone here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Casey. If I could just ask you to stay for a while with us here, because thank you for mentioning FTBE, which is the first certificate for teachers of business English. And in Ukraine, over the last 2 years, quite a lot of teachers have successfully passed this qualifications test and got the certificates. І сьогодні у нас є чудова нагода подякувати і нагородити тих вчителів англійської мови, які найкраще здали екзамен і отримали сертифікат FTB with distinction. So if you could just help me with this small award ceremony, then we would ask onto the stage Alena Zarachovich. Ольга Ярська. Діана Дуброва. Тетяна Горетко. Юлія Рубінська. Світлана Бойко. Ганна Іванова. Okay, well, perhaps Anna will join us later. Дарина Луховська.
And last but not least, we should congratulate Svetlana Sorochitska.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to our next very special guest. Пані та панове, дозвольте представити Квіт Сергій Миронович, the professor of Kyiv-Mohyla Academy, the former Minister of Education and Science of Ukraine in 2014-2016. You're welcome.
Hi, dear colleagues. I am glad to be here today with you and to have the opportunity to welcome you at the forum and to deliver you some thoughts about higher education reform. Of course, my English is not so strong, but I will try to explain you what we meant in reformation of higher education in Ukraine. First of all, some statistics. Ukraine, maybe you know that Ukraine ranks 61st in the world in the level of GDP. The first place on human capital, the fourth place in scientific potential, the 41st place on the potential of higher education system, and 56th place in terms of innovation. Of course, we have a lot of obstacles and problems, and I think that the main problem is Russian invasion and undeclared war, because as a result of this war, Ukraine lost more than 20% of national economy. We have about or more than 2 million IDPs, and 18 universities and 10 research institutes were evacuated from the occupied territories. It means that we moved them to other regions of Ukraine, and some of them to Kyiv too. So obstacles, first of all, lack agent of changes. It's so important. Post-Soviet way of thinking of Ukrainian politicians, especially regarding to financial autonomy of higher education institutions. A gap between Ukrainian universities and the system of the National Academy of Sciences. you know that from the very beginning of the Soviet power, Soviets divided higher education and research, and today we have to combine. We have to merge both systems, also to develop the structure of Ukrainian universities and infrastructure of research. Conservatism of educational managers and especially leadership of the National Academy of Sciences. Unfortunately, we have this fact. Lack of financial autonomy, lack of communication with the labor market, and fundamental lack of funds. Our priorities. Universal access to quality education. The most important thing is comprehensive university autonomy, which includes a financial, academic, and organizational autonomy. The concept of university autonomy was developed by Consortium of University Autonomy, which was established just after the Orange Revolution in 2005. This consortium included 8 universities from different parts of Ukraine. In Kyiv, we had Kyiv-Mogil Academy and small private university of economy and law Krok, or STEP. In Lviv, we have Ukrainian Catholic University and Ivan Franko National University, and also national universities from Kharkiv, Donetsk, Dnipropetrovsk, and Chernivtsi. During the next 5 years, we developed this concept of university autonomy. We tried to understand how it could work under Ukrainian circumstances. We had a lot of, we created a lot of documents, offers to the government, personally to the President Yushchenko, and so on. And I remember one very interesting seminar at the university at Cambridge in Great Britain. The vice rector of Cambridge told us, if you want to establish a very important national project, you need 3 things. You need right people, you need traditions, and you need trust. I turned back to my colleague, who was representative of presidential administration at that time. I believe it was in 2006, and told him, did you hear? He mentioned trust. And a representative of presidential administration answered me, there is no notion in Ukrainian legislation, no trust. Of course, university autonomy could be started only from trust. It's so important for university life, for our academic life. Next priorities, the decentralization of governance, deregulation, reduction in bureaucracy, public-private partnership, and state-community management. And it's so important also internationalization. We started to work on the law on higher education, in fact, from the end of 2010. It was the wave of contradiction with current ministry in that time and current minister in that time, Dmytro Tabachnik. He tried to establish his own version of a draft law on higher education, which was grounded on the idea, we called that idea Russian-style governance with strong vertical of power, with no room for discussion or for university autonomy. We started to struggle against this idea with ideas of comprehensive university autonomy. Later, it was in the beginning of 2012, our government officially established our working group, who started to work officially from the beginning of 2012. And the beginning of the next year, 2013, we already had the draft law on higher education. This draft law was approved by the parliament after the Revolution of Dignity. It was a very good opportunity. It was the summer of 2014. It means, it's a very interesting point of difference. It's so, in Ukraine, we have a different reality and different political language. It means in summer of 2014, our parliament approved a new law on higher education. It didn't mean that our draft law was implemented, because the process of implementation in Ukraine is something different from the process of approval. But in English language, it could be, it could be synonyms, but not in Ukraine, unfortunately. But I would like to underline that today our universities have full academic autonomy, like British universities or American universities. The problem is that our financial autonomy was blocked by different political, economical reasons. In our circumstances, economical also are political, belong to political list. And it means that our main task today, as a next step of implementation of our draft law on higher education, is financial autonomy, establishment of financial autonomy. It's really, really important for us. I also would like to mention some other laws which were approved by our parliament after the Revolution of Dignity. I mentioned the law on higher education, 2014. The next one was a law on science and research, 2015. I mean, it's law in Ukrainian про наукову і науково-технічну діяльність. And the last one, among the most important, is a basic law on education, which was approved in 2017. I believe that the next step will be approval of law on pre-higher education related to our colleges, Ukrainian colleges, which also must be changed completely. And one more draft law, which was created, I think, at the beginning of 2016, was a draft law on amendments to some laws of Ukraine concerning the financing of higher education regarding economic relations in higher education. It means that we have to change completely the economy of our higher education. I think that we need to implement the notion of basic funding. We need to reject the practice of a state order, which is so strange, and it's a very, very hard task to explain our international partners what does it mean, державне замовлення. And I believe that we will be successful on this way. Finally, I would like to stress the two tasks, what we need as the next steps in reformation of our higher education area. First of all, it's, as I mentioned, it's financial autonomy, and we need more agent of changes. All of us, we need to become agent of changes. It's so hard for Ukraine that on one hand, we have so strong requirement from the society for changes, for reformation of higher education and education area at all. But on the other hand, we don't have any specific group who would be the agent of changes. I think on this way, all of us could be such agents of changes personally, and also it's very important that our institutions also have to become agents of changes. We need to find and to understand the uniqueness of our universities, and the next step is to make some contribution in our reforms. I would like only finally mention some contributions or some achievements of my university, Kyiv-Mogil Academy, which is quite small in size, but it did a lot for the development of Ukrainian higher education area. No corruption, the first bachelor programs, the first master's programs, the first PhD programs, to work in languages Ukrainian and English, the first entrance test system, electiveness of courses, cross-admission to MA programs, and culture, freedom, and autonomy. And I think that it's very important that all of us could create such list or start to create, to do something for creating such list of achievements of your institutions, because all of us must be part of this reformation process. Thank you very much, and I wish you to have a good and fruitful time next 2 days. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are just about to get down to our sessions and presentations. Before that, can I ask you whether all of you have got this, the agenda? Якщо б ми з вами могли просто швиденько проглянути порядок денний, поки наш наступний презентер, напевно, підготується до презентації. Okay. Mike, if you need to set up anything now at your computer, you can, but I will introduce you in a minute, because, well, I will go through the agenda. Отже, давайте проглянемо сьогоднішній план. Ми працюємо приблизно до 5-ї години, напевно, трошки скоріше закінчимо. Після наступної сесії буде тривати годину перерва. Ви зможете ознайомитися з нашими консультаційними стендами, бо я бачила, що дехто з вас прийшов вже в останню, передостанню хвилину, і я усіляко запрошую вас переглянути всі наші зони консультаційні і освітні, і презентаційні в холі перед залом. Під час перерви відпочити, і після того ще буде 2 сесії. І нагадую, що ми працюємо завтра, з 11-ї починаються тренінгові і презентаційні сесії, до за 15:30. Okay, well, so now I'm ready to introduce our next speaker, but before that, I want to show you something. Okay, have a look. Does it look familiar to you? Really? How many of you have ever used this dictionary? Can you raise your hands, please? Okay. How many of you have advised your students to look inside, to look in there for the words? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to introduce our next very special guest, Mike Mayer, who is the editorial director of Longman Contemporary Dictionary. But perhaps this is not going to be the topic of today's presentation. Oh my. Well, I'm supposed to be good with this, right, with the mics. So, not only the editorial director, but Mike Mayer is the director of Global Scale of English at Pearson. You're welcome.
I'm set up here, but it's not projecting. I don't know. Oh, it is. Okay, we're good. So, good afternoon. Yes, it's already afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. So yes, Longman Dictionaries. I hope you didn't get too excited there. I am not going to be talking about dictionaries today, although if I need to fill in at the end, I'll do 10 minutes on dictionaries. But today I want to talk to you about the latest projects that I've been involved with and some research that's been carried out mainly by Pearson, but by some other organizations around the future of employability and what will employers be looking for, what are they looking for now, what are they going to be looking for in 2030. If I'm honest, I don't really do plenaries. So this is quite a big room for me. But you will see in my presentation that there are a few little activities, because I am a teacher at heart and I love a little activity. So I hope you're going to play along with the activities, join in. I'm going to be coming down those steps and I'm going to be asking some people for some answers, so be afraid. The first thing, just to get you warmed up, let's see if I can work out. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about some research. And talking about research can be a bit dull, if I'm honest. So what I would like you to do is I'm going to show you, in fact, I'll show you now. So here are some research findings. And at the top of the screen, you've got some numbers. And those numbers complete the sentences that you have in front of you. Okay? I'm going to give you literally 2 minutes, because we've got a lot to get through. You have 2 minutes to decide, and we can do pair work. You can talk to the person next to you. 2 minutes to decide which number goes in which sentence. Okay, off you go. I think that's about 1 minute, so hurry up with your second bit. Okay, I'm going to start moving on. I'll give you the answers in a couple of slides. And I'm moving on. Okay, so about 3 years ago, as part of the Global Scale of English project, we carried out some research in collaboration with LinkedIn. Have we heard of LinkedIn? Yes. Okay, so we carried out some research looking at English and employability and what employers were looking for. And here are some of the findings that we got. Not sure how good your eyesight is at the back, but that's probably a bit challenging to read that. So what we found was that actually fluency in English was the second most sought after attribute for employers, international employers, after the relevant skill set. We also found out that 68% of employers assess a candidate's level of English as they're recruiting for jobs. Okay? And 91% felt that having a workforce that was able to communicate in English was beneficial for the company. Okay, so I think you should have 3 of your answers there already. This second piece of research comes from the US, and this is the Society of Human Resources Managers. And they did some research in 2014 into the skills gaps in the workforce. And as you can see, 3 of the top 5 were related to English. And I think what's particularly interesting here is that this was not just about speakers of English as a second language. This is a skills gap in speakers of English as a first language as well. So-called native speakers often do not have very good written English skills. And having been a teacher, I can tell you that is true. And I know friends who are university lecturers who despair at the quality of the essays being written by so-called native speakers of English. Actually, the overseas students often can write better than the native speakers of English. Somewhat depressing was the statistic that only 7% of employees who responded to the LinkedIn questionnaire felt confident and comfortable about their English in the workplace. So maybe they had English, maybe they'd learnt English, but they really didn't feel confident in using English in the workplace. So they were kind of the answers you should have got. I'll leave it on the screen, a flash, flash, flash. Everybody takes it on their mobile phone, okay? We are going to actually share this presentation with you after, so there will be some URLs that you might want to note to follow up on extra research, other resources. So we will send you that information. You don't have to photograph every single screen. So, yay! The future is bright for language teachers, for English language teachers. Good news. Or is it? So then this next piece of research was carried out by the British Council. And they have just published a report into the future of English in 2025. And this was research carried out in Europe. I think it was 7 countries in Europe. And again, we'll share this so you can read the key findings and follow the link to the website. However, some of the key findings were that employers will continue to need employees who have high levels of English skills, but they will need them for specific tasks, not just general English skills. Adults are increasingly going to need top-up tuition as they move into different jobs and roles, and they will need specific English targeting those particular roles. And they're increasingly, and we're already seeing this, demanding more flexible delivery of the English language teaching. So in the private language school system, which is what I used to teach in, you often had quite long-term English, general English courses. People came for years learning English. That is probably going to change going forward, and people are going to want something much more targeted, flexible, and shorter. So maybe we might need to just look a little bit about what we're teaching today's students. And so a little bit of information about the global scale of English. Now, I was told people would know the global scale of English, but I suspect you don't. So let's start with the easy question. Who knows the Common European Framework? Okay. Who's heard of the global scale of English? Okay. Not bad. About half the room has actually heard of the global scale of English. For those of you who haven't, just very briefly, it's an extension of the Common European Framework for English. So Common European Framework was created for all European languages. Global Scale of English, as the title suggests, focuses just on English. And so we've extended it and added a lot more information to make it kind of a practical tool for teachers to use for curriculum development and for lesson planning. And what we've done is extend it into different areas, different types of learner audience. So we have general English for adults, which is the one that's most similar to Common European Framework. We've got a set for English for academic purposes, a set for English for professional or business purposes, and then a set for young learners, so learners in primary and secondary education. I don't know, do we have any primary, secondary teachers in the audience? Yay. Okay, that's the set that you'd be most interested in, and actually that's the set that has been used by the Ukrainian ministry as they've been redeveloping their national curriculum. So we have played a part in the development of the new Ukrainian, I can't remember if it's primary or secondary, but primary curriculum, I'm being told from the front row. Okay, so all of that is free on the website. I'm not selling you anything here. This is all downloadable from the website. And we've also developed grammar aligned to this same proficiency scale and vocabulary. And just very quickly, the methodology, we've tried to replicate the methodology used for the Common European Framework. So basically, Common European Framework was developed through research with teachers. So teachers were asked, at what level of proficiency can your learner do this thing in English? And we've used the same methodology. However, Common European Framework was researched in Switzerland. So the research was carried out in one tiny country in Europe. It was research in the 1990s. Obviously, today, much easier to get a global audience. So we've done the same type of approach, but we've worked with over 6,000 teachers in more than 50 countries around the world to get a global perspective. And where those teachers around the world, so the teacher in Brazil, the teacher in Spain, the teacher in Ukraine, the teacher in Japan, the teacher in South Korea, where they agree on the level, at least 80% of the time, we keep the information. If they don't agree, we decide that that's not an agreed standard, and so it's rejected. So all the information in the published documents has been validated with teachers around the world at least 80% of the time. So now let's look at English for the workplace, okay? Because that's one of the sets of can-do statements, one of the sets of learning objectives that we developed. And we developed it because at the time we started, around 85% of the world's international organizations were using English as their official language of communication. And so as a result of that statistic, we decided there was mileage, there was a reason for developing a specific set of learning objectives for people learning English for business purposes. And when you download the documents or you look at the documents, they are literally lists of learning objectives that you can use to plan your lessons, to plan a course, to plan a curriculum at different levels of proficiency for speaking, reading, writing, listening. Okay? You can see that some of them are highlighted as pro. Those are the ones which are specifically professional English. However, we also include all the general English because normally people cover the general English of meeting people, introductions, etc. as part of a business course. So it contains all the general plus the professional English. However, it's 2018. You might not want to work with pieces of paper and download PDFs from a website. And so we've also got an online database called the Teacher Toolkit. You can find it at that URL. And as it suggests, it's a set of resources and tools to help teachers in the classroom. And the great thing about the online database is it brings together the learning objectives, so these can-do statements, plus vocabulary, plus grammar. So you have everything in your in the one place. So imagine you're teaching a group of business students. You'll select professional learner. You'll select the approximate level of your learner, and you might want to select a particular skill, for example, speaking. And it will bring you up a list of learning objectives that you might want to think about teaching or covering at that level of proficiency. Okay. You won't be able to cover everything. This is just a guide to say this is an appropriate skill to be teaching at this level. So, next little activity for you. This is a quote from the British Council research. Even in countries where general English proficiency is high, moving from general English to industry, sector-specific English with linguistic confidence for activities such as blah, 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 is challenging. Okay, so what I would like you to do while I have a mouthful of water, is, again, with your next-door neighbor, what are the industry-specific activities that are mentioned here? Think of any industry-specific activities you might teach as part of a professional, a business English course. Okay? And this time I am going to be coming down amongst you and putting a microphone in somebody's face to speak. Even right at the back. I will run to the back of the room to get you too. So, 2 minutes, go for that. Okay, 1 more minute. Okay, if you've got a suggestion, you can put your hand up. Otherwise, a microphone is going in somebody's face. Come on, somebody must have at least a suggestion. Oh, yes, I know you. I can see you want to speak.
Okay, we were thinking about medical sphere, where they would need skills in speaking, presentations, as well as listening skills, comprehension skills.
Okay, no, that's good. You don't have to answer everything. So, for example, presentation skills.
Oh, there's so many, but I think law sphere, for example, and foreign economic activity, for example, it needs skills of presentation, comprehension. It's very important.
Okay, presentation skills again. Any other business-specific skills? A hand, finally.
Negotiation.
Negotiation skills, very good. Another hand. Sir.
Submitting applications.
Applications, submitting, making applications. You can put your hand up. I haven't finished. Anybody? I'm walking past you. Right. The other side you can relax because I'm not going up those stairs again.
Creativity.
Creativity.
So writing skills are of great importance, so that's why writing reports and dealing with complaints.
Okay, ooh, very good. Dealing with complaints, writing reports. Now we're warming up now, aren't we? Everybody wants to speak.
So in terms of business, English for business, I suppose it's telephoning, conference calls, then emails, then selling online, selling offline.
We're on a roll now, selling online, selling offline. One final one round here. I know you're dying to speak, yeah. Don't look at me, don't look at me. Please don't look at me. Huh? And being confident in your terminology. Okay, let me just show you what. Sorry, now I can't shut you up now. What's this?
How to write a research paper.
How to write a research paper. Good, right. End of that activity. What they actually had was giving presentations, negotiating, participating in conference calls. We got all of those. We didn't get networking at events. But anyway, that's pretty good. What do we think was the top skill? I'm not coming down again. You'll just have to shout out. What was the top skill? Presentation, not of those, of any skill. Presentations, negotiating, speaking's too general. I want something a bit more specific. Telephoning, small talk. Nah. Meetings, attending business meetings. You obviously don't have the pleasure of working in a company where you have the impression that this is all we do every day, meeting, meeting, meeting. So yes, the top skill in this piece of research from the European Commission was around meetings. So we thought, okay, maybe this is something we can add to the database. But before we do that, this is the complicated task. Okay? I'm going to show you 5 learning objectives related to meetings. Okay? What I would like you to do, anecdotes from my life. So here's a little insight into the life of a dictionary writer. I come from the north of England, not far from Manchester, and the family business was established in 1848, and it was saddlery. Basically, as it says, making saddles and reins and things for horses. And then somebody had the great idea to invent the motor car. And guess what? The saddlery business went down. And so the family business had to adapt and change, reuse those skills in something different. So still sewing, but canvas and making tents and making covers for farmers and sheets, etc. You can see why I ended up in dictionary. I wanted to escape the life of making tents and farmers' sheets. Can anybody tell me what this job is? Very good. Most people say window cleaner, but no. This is a job that was known as a knocker-upper. Okay, so my grandfather used to work on the docks. And in the north of England, the big factory owners and the dock owners employed somebody with a big stick to go round and knock on people's windows in the morning to make sure they arrive at work on time. Okay? And the joke was, well, who knocks up the knocker-upper? Who wakes up the knocker-upper? But anyway. And then, you know what's coming. Somebody invented affordable alarm clocks. And suddenly, the knocker-upper is not a job you see anymore. Right? So this idea that we're losing jobs and new, it's been around forever. So what I'd like you to do this is 1 minute. If you think about when you were at school, so 11, 12 years old, what did you want to be? Maybe you've always dreamed about being a teacher, but maybe not. So when you were 12 years old, what did you want to be? You don't actually need to think about this, do you, too much? But who's going to offer? What did you? And I need people who are not too young for this. I'm not offending anybody, but people more my age. What did you want to be when you were 12 years old?
Probably a military officer.
A military officer? Okay, military officer.
I've always wanted to be a teacher.
Always wanted to be a teacher.
Wanted to be a surgeon because there was a film.
A surgeon because she saw a film. Okay, wanted to be a surgeon. Any other dreams? Me.
I wanted to be a president.
Wanted to be the president? It's not too late. You might still be president, yeah. Okay, any other jobs? You just shout it out the other side. Any exciting jobs? A what? Astronaut, wow. That's a good one. Okay. My dreams were not quite that ambitious. I certainly didn't dream about writing dictionaries. That was me. Well, that wasn't me. I've never been that thin. I've never been that blonde. But I wanted to be a tour guide. I thought it was a great way to always be on holiday, to get to travel the world. Didn't realize that working for Pearson, you also get to travel the world. Not on holiday, but you get to go to exciting places. However, I didn't dream about becoming an app developer or a blogger or an offshore wind farm engineer or a drone operator or a sustainability director or a Zumba instructor, even though, you know, I have the moves. I didn't dream about that because basically those jobs did not exist. When I was at school, okay, it was a few years ago, but those jobs, rude, those jobs did not exist in the 1970s. I realize you weren't even born in the 1970s, but those jobs didn't exist in the 1970s. So if we're looking at the kids who are in schools now, 65% of them will end up doing jobs which actually don't exist today. So how do we prepare them for these jobs? How do you get a job that doesn't yet exist? And so it's farewell to job titles and hello to skill sets. We need to focus more on the skills that we're teaching rather than the specific knowledge, if you like. And so one final anecdote about my life. Longman Dictionaries was my life. I did dictionaries for 20 years. And then somebody decided it was a good idea to have free dictionaries online. And every student loves a free dictionary online, right? And so that was the end of the dictionary career. Thank you very much. And that's how now I've ended up in Global Scale of English. Now, did I get to do the Global Scale of English because I was a lexicographer? No. Did I get to do the Global Scale of English because I was an expert in the Common European Framework? No. They were different skills that prepared me to do a different job within the same company, and that's kind of where we're going to be looking now. So, the future skills. And I'm going to play you this short video. I will warn you, they speak quite quickly. So I hope nobody gets depressed that they don't it does go very quick, but let's hope you can at least understand some of it.
The conversation about the future of jobs and skills is one of the most important in education. A student entering formal education today will be making decisions about their career by the year 2030. But wait, we already know about the future of jobs. The robots are taking them, right? Let's take a step back. Anxiety about workers being replaced is rampant, but fear of automation is nothing new. Fears of technologically driven unemployment have arisen throughout the centuries, usually provoked by a disruption, like the Industrial Revolution. But historically, technology creates more jobs than it destroys. Of course, we don't know if it will be different this time, but we do know that automation is only one part of the story. Equally important are other interacting trends, including changing demographics, urbanization, globalization, inequality, political uncertainty, and climate change. What do we mean by interacting? Consider for a moment the following. Urbanization and globalization are trends that are interacting with and component parts of climate change, all of which are driving the green sector. Currently, the green economy is creating new jobs faster than jobs are disappearing in the polluting sectors. But in the face of increasing the high consumer cost of green energy could slow demand and job growth. In addition, investments in green technologies are deeply intertwined with government policy, making prospects even more uncertain. Understanding how these trends interact is clearly complex. It is also critical to understanding the jobs and skills needed in the future. That's why Pearson teamed up with researchers from Nesta and the Oxford Martin School to move the conversation past automation. Our forward-looking research combines the best of human expertise with the power of machine learning to understand the trends and make more nuanced forecasts than previously possible. What did we find? The future of work is brighter than you might think. And what's the best way to prepare for the future? We invite you to explore the future of skills employment in 2030.
I did warn you, it goes very
The job
fast.
market is
Oh,
very...
I don't want that. Okay, so it's research carried out by Pearson into what are the skills that employers will be looking for in 2030, these more generic skills. And so things like judgment and decision making. And you, again, I will give you the link to the website. You can explore it for these different jobs and different skills. They also have a nice interactive section of the website where you can put in your age, your job, and it will tell you how likely it is that your job will grow by 2030, or will it shrink? Now, the great news is, language teachers, your job is growing. So if any of you will still be teaching in 2030, I know I'll be on a beach somewhere retired, but there are a few young people who will still be teaching in 2030. Language teaching is set to stay, as are a number of jobs. This is a civil engineer, but if you look for the more maybe manual work, so van drivers, if any of your students are aspiring to become van drivers, that career is set to deteriorate and maybe disappear as automation comes in and we have driverless cars and driverless transport. So it's quite a fun little interactive section of the website. You can put in various careers that your students are looking at. So some of the key findings is that there is a strong emphasis on interpersonal skills, so what we often refer to as the soft skills, and the higher order thinking skills, such as decision making. Another, broad-based knowledge such as a language, particularly English, is also something which is going to be increasingly sought after in 2030. And a lot of research also points to the fact that students are going to have the ability to carry on learning throughout life. It's not, let's get to the end of secondary education and then that's it. We've learned everything we need. Increasingly, that ability to learn, to self-study, that will keep people in employment. So I was looking at this list, which again at the back you probably can't see, and I was thinking, okay, this is new research, but it kind of looks a bit familiar to me. Does it look, I mean, for anybody who can see it, does it look familiar to anybody else? Are there any other kind of types of skill that you think this reminds you of? The question's not very clear, so I'm just going to tell you the answer. Have we heard of the 21st century skills? Yes? Okay, I'm coming down. The 21st century skills are often summed up as a number of C words, and we already had one around here before. I can't remember. Yes. Just give me, now everybody wants to give me all four. Just give me one. Choose your favorite.
Creativity.
Nice. Creativity. Who's going to give me just one? I don't want the other three.
Critical thinking.
Critical thinking. That's two. Who's going to give me a third?
Collaboration.
Collaboration. That's three.
Communication.
Wonderful. Communication. I think there's actually a few more C's like cultural awareness, but they were the ones that I was thinking of. And to be honest, in language teaching, certainly in Pearson Publishing, we've been looking at 21st century skills for a number of years. This isn't really something that new. And looking at that list, you have critical thinking, but actually a number of other things actually are covered by critical thinking, by creativity, by collaboration, and by communication. So, to a certain extent, I think language teachers are already preparing learners for the future because these are fundamental parts of the language teaching classroom, or at least they should be. So, collaborative pair work, the group work, the discussion, the problem solving. And it kind of relates back to Bloom's taxonomy. Sorry, I'm aware that I'm standing in people's way here. Bloom's taxonomy, or the adapted taxonomy, where you have the comprehension level, and then the critical thinking level, and then the creative level. And depending on your teaching context, you know, there could be a tendency to stay in that secure comprehension level. So the gap fills, the multiple choice, particularly when assessment is concerned. Nobody's saying that this is bad. No, you still need to learn the grammar, you need to learn the vocabulary, you do need, some people need the rote learning, lists of words. That's how I learned language. But you need to then move up the taxonomy towards critical thinking and creativity. Okay, I will share the slides with you, but if you prefer to have a picture on your phone, that's fine. And this made me think of another piece of research, and I really like this quote because what Charles Ledbetter is saying in this book, which is a collection of case studies of teaching, classroom case studies where people are breaking the mold of traditional teaching to try to prepare people for the future. And his message in the book is actually factual knowledge is not as highly valued as it used to be. Anybody can find anything on the internet. Right? We can all do a Google search, right? I have a confession at this point. I have a degree in French. I taught in France for 5 years. I have French friends. When I write today to French friends, I write it in English, and I pop it into Google Translate, and then I tidy up all the things that the translator has got wrong, because I kind of use my critical thinking skills and say, that doesn't sound natural, that's not how. Does it make me a bad person? I don't think so. But, you know, basically, the internet can do everything for you. And what Charles Ledbetter is saying, as computers and technology start getting better and better, as human beings, we have to learn to become more human. We have to focus on the things that maybe technology can't do as well as humans. The interpersonal relationships, the collaboration, the critical thinking, the analysis. And this made me laugh of a computer trying to learn how to become human and learning about all the human things which bother us, like, I don't know what to do with my life, and does this make me look fat, and the girl in accounting has stolen my cup, you know. So that's what a robot looks like when they're trying to become human. Anyway, critical thinking. I'm just going to focus a little bit on critical thinking skills then. No pressure, because of course I spent 20 years writing dictionary definitions, but could you just write a definition of critical thinking? What does critical thinking mean for you? And if that's too much like hard work, just think of 5 verbs that you would associate with critical thinking. Okay, I'll just give you a minute to have some ideas. Okay, I can see a few people scribbling up here. Are we going for the definition or just the verbs? The verbs. Has anybody done a definition? Definition?
In my opinion, critical thinking, to simplify, is to find the questions in answers.
Is that simplifying? That sounds very philosophical to me. To find the questions in answers. Okay.
That in information you see, you might find something that from your point of view is some definite question, and for others it might be not so definite. And using critical thinking and communication and collaboration, you find something new to both sides.
Wow, it's very philosophical. Okay. Is this philosophical?
I believe that critical thinking is all about analyzing, comparing, doubting, checking, benchmarking, and asking.
Definition with 5 verbs as well. Okay, analyzing, doubting, questioning. Any other verbs that we've got for critical thinking?
Access. Evaluate. Yeah, evaluate.
Evaluating. Any more verbs? Criticizing. Any more verbs? Looking for... Sorry? I'm terrible at lip reading, and my hearing is not that great, and my sight is even worse, so sorry. Generalizing, links, finding links. Okay, so these are some of the things, again, that are linked with critical thinking. Okay, looking at evidence, selecting pertinent information, which is, I think, what you were saying, sir. Distinguishing relevant from irrelevant facts. Okay, one of the greatest skills for finding information on the internet. Is it real or is it fake? Analyzing, determining the strength of an argument, relationships, ideas, hypotheses, drawing valid conclusions and inferences. Well, that's all well and good. However, a common assumption is that learners need a certain level of English before we can start engaging them in critical thinking. You need a certain level of English. And I think this is probably based on the type of vocabulary that we use to describe critical thinking. So this was the definition from a dictionary. I'm not sure it was a Longman dictionary, but the process of actively and skillfully conceptualizing, applying, analyzing, synthesizing, and evaluating information. And we use these high-level verbs. Okay? And I think that's why we have the idea that critical thinking is you need a high level of language. So if I look at these verbs, okay, I'll let you read that quotation. So just because somebody has a lower level of English does not mean they have a lower level of intelligence. And so we owe it to our students to actually get them to engage with critical thinking in the classroom. It's going to be more stimulating, and it actually helps them with deeper learning. But if I look at these words in the vocabulary database for GSE, you can see that these are high-level words. You wouldn't expect somebody with a low level of vocabulary to be able to use those words. However, if I go into the database, I look for the vocabulary section, and if I look at a very low level, so pre-A1 and A1, which is like the very beginning of language learning, and I look at something like expressing opinions, at that very low level, you have 72 words and phrases that people, even at the very low level of language proficiency, can use. So all of these words are really low level, and even the ones at A2 you could teach at a much earlier level. So, you know, my argument would be that, and I know most of you are in higher education, so you probably don't have the very low levels, but there is no reason why, even at the lowest level of language ability, you can't start introducing critical thinking. So this is from the really lowest primary level book. We're going to get them to learn the names of some animals, and then traditionally we say, okay, match the picture with the word, which is the owl, which is the lizard. Okay? That's at that comprehension level of Bloom's taxonomy. But then very simply, like, ask them which is their favorite animal and say why. And that is a form of critical thinking. So even at those very lowest levels, critical thinking can be introduced. And employers are wanting colleges, universities to place greater emphasis on critical thinking. They're unlikely to develop if you don't introduce them in the classroom. Okay? A lecture style of teaching will not develop critical thinking skills. And that instruction needs to develop over a period of time. It's not, okay, today we'll do critical thinking, tomorrow we'll do creativity, then we'll do collaboration, and then, okay, that's done for the year. It needs to be systematically introduced week after week after week into the classroom. And those are just some of the examples. Again, there's this paper. I will give you the link to these where you can find information about these papers. But there again at the bottom, and this is possibly true for subjects other than languages in universities, critical thinking is not going to develop in a lecture style. I give you information and you take in information. We have to be encouraging learners to synthesize and question, etc. And so Pearson, in partnership with somebody called Partnership for 21st Century Learning, has published some reports. So if people are interested in quite an academic overview of 21st century skills, if you look on this website, you have summaries of the research into critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, and communication. So, is it yay? Or is it arr? Well, I think it's probably yay on the balance. Languages are here to stay. English is here to stay. Language teachers are here to stay. And you are beautifully positioned to actually train your students in those future skills which employers will be looking for. And so I was thinking back. I've been with Pearson for 15 years. And we have various campaigns and marketing campaigns. And maybe some people remember the Great Teachers campaign. So we had a campaign based on great teachers inspire, great teachers motivate, great teachers change the world. And I was thinking back to this campaign, and actually, we are in the situation today because of people like you. If our world is changing beyond belief, it's because people were educated and people were taught to question things and not just do the same all the time. And so you're kind of responsible for what's happening in our classrooms and in our jobs today. So I would now add to that teachers need to be, great teachers prepare students for a changing world. So it's not just about teaching them the vocabulary or the grammar or the structures. You want to also be looking at these 21st century soft, new, future, whatever you want to call them, skills. Those are the two key websites that you will find information on. So Global Scale of English is very easy, english.com/GSE. Even if you don't take a photo, I think you can probably remember english.com/GSE. And then the futureskills.pearson.com. Now, I think because I've got a couple of sneaky extra slides up my sleeve in case we have time. I think we have time. So one other thing that I wish I'd had this research when I told my family, guess what? I want to go to study French. You remember they had a family business, they were making canvas, and I said, no, I want to go to university and study French. And their question is, why? What for? What good is French? Do you want to be a teacher? No, not really. What are you going to do with French? Okay, so we've also worked with a group called Bilingualism Matters, based in Edinburgh. They carry out research into the benefits and basically second language learning in children and adults. And that's a quote from their website. Bilingualism gives children much more than 2 languages. And I should just say, bilingualism doesn't mean you're fluent in another language. It just means that you're learning or you're studying or you can communicate in a second language at whatever level. But they have research on their website to show the benefits of being a speaker of a second language, and how I wish I could have quoted this when I was getting the, why are you studying French? Nobody needs French. What a waste of time. No, bilinguals show a greater ability to concentrate and focus on relevant information. You possibly don't feel that in the classroom when you're trying to get your students to focus, but studies show that bilinguals are better at focusing. Bilinguals are better at multitasking. Everybody says it's women who are good at multitasking, right? Men can't multitask. Well, bilingual men can. Bilinguals, in general, have better memories. And in a business context, it's been shown that bilinguals are actually better at decision-making in the second language. They're somehow less emotionally involved because it's being processed in the second language. And again, this may not be your experience in the classroom, but bilinguals have a better attention span. They can concentrate for longer. And the great thing is, if you're, my side of 50, it's never too late. And it shows that actually learning a second language in later life helps to ward off the symptoms of dementia and helps to keep the brain active in later life. So this group also dispels the kind of given truth that the younger you start, the better. They say there is no evidence to suggest the younger you start, the better. It means you have more years, fine, but it doesn't mean that young learners are necessarily better at learning languages than older learners. There is no evidence to support that. And there's my closing slide again, and I'm going to wrap up there. Thank you for participating, and enjoy the rest of your conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, before the break, let us look through the agendas one more time. Давайте ми подивимося на час і також на наші годинники, і ми побачимо, що завдяки тому, що ми блискавично швидко пройшли урочисте відкриття, у нас ще навіть трошки більше є часу. Тому пропозиція така. Давайте ми домовимося зустрітися в залі після цієї перерви за годину. Ніхто не проти, якщо ми раптом трошки раніше сьогодні закінчимо наш робочий день. Я думаю, це ніколи не мінус. І тому, якщо ви мені ще приділите, а я думаю, ви можете це зробити 1 хвилину, то давайте ми окреслимо. Через годину ми зустрінемося тут на ще дуже цікаві, насичені сесії. І я думаю, кожен з вас сьогодні бачив ось таку... Десь бачив ось таку книгу, ось такий ресурс. А де ви її бачили? In your bags, right. Отже, після перерви на вас чекає сесія від одного з авторів найновішого, найсучаснішого ресурсу Business Partner. Тому це треба обов'язково не пропустити. І також запрошуємо вас відвідувати наші інформаційні стенди з екзаменів, з FTBE, з платформи MyLab, з ресурсного забезпечення, а також запрошує університетська їдальня і кафетерії. Якщо ви зголодніли, ви можете там придбати собі трошки поїсти. Тому гарної перерви, до зустрічі через годину.
Раз. Работают, да?
There's no flexibility, I'm afraid. We really need the components earlier. 2 weeks earlier, in fact.
Okay, I understand your position. I think we can do it. Just let me recalculate the budget. There'll be additional costs.
But is that really our responsibility? The original shipment was due in by the 9th of May. You changed it to the 28th.
That was all cleared with Daniel. Arrangements have been made. If we had known otherwise, we would have shipped earlier.
I know working in companies that these sorts of problems are the real negotiations that take place in offices all around the world all the time. In business English training, we very often do negotiations as much as, I want to buy 20 printers for my office, this is the price, and then you negotiate the price down. That's not real world. This is much closer to the real world, much, much closer. Real problems with a cost problem on each side. Who's going to take the cost of this issue? So let's look at option A. Let's look at how Beate gives instructions, handles a sub-supplier.
But things have changed now. You need to meet this new deadline. I'm afraid I can't compromise on this.
So there's no flexibility at all? How about a few days later?
I'm afraid I'm just not that flexible. My hands are tied. We need that shipment by the 10th.
All right, let's be clear here. You now need me to get these components to the UK by the 10th, and I have to cover all the costs myself?
Exactly, yes.
Seriously, Beate, there's nothing you can do here? No flexibility? Fine. Leave it with me. I'll call the factory in Shenzhen and get back to you.
Excellent. Thank you. I got what I wanted, which is good. And she knows that I am the boss, which is also good. I don't think I'm going to have too many problems with Clarice in the future.
One of the things research is telling us about business English as opposed to general English, this is what we're trying to do here, represent a real business situation where one person has all the power. How do you deal with it? Here's option B. So here's the other way Beate can handle this situation, or another way.
Yes, I know that Daniel cleared the existing schedule, but it doesn't change anything. We still need the shipment by the 10th. As I said earlier, I have no room for maneuver on this.
It's a pity we don't have another container leaving this week. We could have sent them straight away. As I say, they're ready to go.
So it seems to me we have two problems here. I need the components to arrive by the 10th. You need to be able to cover additional costs. How about this? I could speak to one of our other suppliers. We have another container leaving China this week. Maybe they'll have some space.
That could work. We're talking 2 cubic meters maximum.
Let me make some calls.
I'll see if we can get the components down to the docks in time. Pretty sure we can. Do you know where the container is right now?
Probably still in the factory.
Where's that?
I couldn't point it out on a map, but I know it's in Guangzhou. That's near Shenzhen, right? Looks like this could be a win for both of us.
A big win. And all before lunchtime too.
I'm very happy with how that meeting went. I got what I wanted, and I think that listening to Clarice and trying to solve her problem made our working relationship stronger. That will help me in the future.
So now you can see we can talk about the advantages and disadvantages of each approach. Is it obvious that one is better than the other? Who would go for the first approach? Nobody? Who would go for the second approach? Okay, that's interesting. When you work in companies, what the salespeople will tell you, what the managers will tell you, is that we don't like relationship building. That's negotiation skills from the 1980s and 90s. What we want now is the ability to put the price pressure on. And the buyer puts that pressure on. It's not about solving the sub-supplier's problems. So actually, the first one is probably more realistic in a lot of companies, especially if you don't need to develop a long-term relationship, because there are many other people in China who can build these components. And these are the sorts of things which are discussed in the units. You know, it's not immediately obvious. It's never one is the best one and one is not so good. There are always advantages and disadvantages for each one. And that's what we're trying to do. Teach people in universities, teach people in companies how to develop these soft skills. And in this case, the soft skill is how to give instructions to a sub-supplier. Do you play it hard or do you play it soft? Here is the conclusion. This is the very, very experienced and very handsome author explaining the different options. Incredibly handsome man. We all have times when people tell us what to do. We all have times when we need to tell other people what to do. In the clip, we see two ways of doing this. In option A, we see how Beate chooses to use her authority to get the job done. She's in charge, and she knows that Clarice will do what she wants. In option B, we see Beate and Clarice working together to find a solution to the problem. So here, she also achieves what she wants, but the outcome seems to be better for Clarice. I think in this option, their relationship improves too. Of course, every situation is different, and it is impossible to say what always works best. But there is an English proverb which might help: to put yourself in the other person's shoes. How would you feel if someone didn't treat you in the way that you treated them? Would you still respect them and work hard for them? This is a question every person in authority has to think about. Except my wife, who has all the authority in every discussion we have. Anyway, that really brings me to the end of what I want to say. You'll have to spend some time looking through the book, seeing if it's appropriate for you. There's a lot of stuff which is tried and tested, the authentic content, the case studies, the grammar exercises. A lot of it is online. There's even more online than in the book. The students have access to all the videos. It's actually a very, very nice package, but you need to spend time looking at it. What I wanted to focus on today was what Mike picked up on this morning, this whole idea of the importance, the growing recognition that soft skills is something we as language teachers have to think about more. And I think that in this book, there is some progress towards how to teach soft skills as opposed to just talk about it. So that's your next step. You now have your homework, you've all got a book, you need to go away, spend a minimum of 2 or 3 days reading every page, okay? And then you can make your decision. Thank you very much. Have we got time for questions or?
Have any questions? And you know, the good news is that tomorrow we'll have another session by Evan Frando. Isn't it fantastic?
Yeah, tomorrow we're going to talk about business English teaching and what a trainer actually needs to be able to know what are the skills of teaching this stuff. In other words, how to train ourselves. But I have to say, this is the first time in my life I've ever been given a platform to speak where I have 3 weapons to use in case anybody asks me difficult questions. So if you have any difficult questions, I'm ready. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, now I will hand you over to Michael Hudson, a teacher trainer and an academic consultant from Great Britain. Many of you might have met Michael at the sessions on my English lab, because over the last 2 years, Michael has been doing a lot to promote my English lab in Ukraine. Michael?
Thank you. Oh, great. You know, I've been waiting all day to get a decent photo, so it looks much better from this angle. Perfect. Okay. You know, many years ago, I was at a conference like this, and we had a workshop, and the trainer started by asking us to write down all of the problems we had in our jobs. And you can imagine a room full of teachers with that question. The first thought was, it's only 45 minutes, right? Because we could have sat there for hours listing all of the problems. I remember two. One was time. Time. There's never enough. Mike said before about this concept that teachers might be replaced by robots. You know, I sometimes think that the problem with teaching is that they expect us to already be robots. There's so much to do and so little time to do it. If only we could teach, and only teach. No meetings, no marking, no lesson preparation. And the other problem I remember that I found very funny was technology. Technology. Technology is something frightening to a lot of teachers, right? I guess because a lot of teachers are, well, around the same age as me. And I'm probably the very last generation in human history who has the choice of whether to use technology or not to use technology. If I try to have a conversation with my 4-year-old nephew about technology, he would laugh at me. Technology to him is just another part of his hand. I started by taking a photo. Actually, I hardly ever use this to make phone calls. I use this to navigate. I use this for memories. I use this to play games. And I also use this to learn languages. And I know hundreds and thousands of students in Ukraine use this or use this to learn languages. Because I spent 2 years of my life traveling around this beautiful country. And a lot of the time I was talking about my English lab. And I'm going to ask a question similar to the one Mike asked before. And I hope I'll see lots of hands. You do know what my English lab is, right? Oh, there's a hand straight away. Well, if you don't worry. Because if you don't, you're going to hear a lot about my English lab in the next half an hour or so. What my English lab is, in short, is something that goes with one of these. And something that gives you and your students time. Why does it give you time? Because my English lab is online, it does a lot automatically for you. If I ask teachers, do you like your job? I might hear yes, I might hear no. If I ask you, do you like marking? I'd be very, very surprised if anybody said yes. With my English lab, 99% of the marking is done for you. If I ask students, do you like homework? I don't think I get many people who say yes. With my English lab, homework is something a little bit different. Because homework isn't here anymore, but is here. Homework goes with you wherever you are. And homework is something that you can do more than once. Homework is something that you don't need to wait to find the answers to. So the people who get on stage in a moment, they're not going to be people like me. They're going to be people like you, teachers and students. And they're not going to be talking about problems. They're going to be talking about solutions. These are teachers and students who are not just keeping up with change, but who are leading change. They're teachers and they're students who I've been working with a lot for the last 2 years. And so I'd like you to give a very big round of applause to the most important people of today, starting with, from this wonderful university, the National University of Trade and Economics, this is my homework for my pronunciation, Yulia Drazdova.
Very, very much. Hello to every one of you. We came here, we came really up here because we're already here from the morning to tell you a little bit, to share with you our own lab experience, to tell you our own lab story. You know, if we start speaking about lab story, we should start speaking about innovations. Innovations, they never just or simply happen. Innovations, they are every time the result of hard, exhausting research work and combination of best practice of team and individuals. Actually, innovations bring very serious, dramatical changes into every process, and of course, educational process too. It was hard for us to start because you all know that innovations can cause very serious resistance at the very beginning. But then, later, being checked with practice, they may become such things as typical. Anyway, we already have a year of experience. We only have a year of experience. We have our achievements, and we have our failures, really. But in any case, we work to do our pedagogical process as effective as it is only possible. We work for our students. We work with our students. That's why it seems to me that it is better to let them say, what do they really think about my English lab? Sir, they are welcome. I want you to support them.
So, hello everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. So, we are second year students of Kyiv National University of Trade and Economics. We conducted a survey among students of philology department to collect information on their experience of using my English lab. We want to give a feedback and to contribute to the development of this program. So, what exactly did we do? We created an online Google form with a set of questions on their experience of using my English lab. And we sent these questionnaires to the different groups of philology department. We also interviewed some of the students, and we will include several citations in our presentation.
So the main reason behind our survey was to uncover the view of the majority, because we believe that the general opinion usually reflects the most objective picture. So overall, more than 70 students responded to our survey, and we think it's quite enough to gain a clear understanding of students' opinion on my English lab. So the first thing we asked students was whether they find my English lab useful and does it help them to improve their language skills. And the general opinion was positive. Students stated, "I started working with my English lab last year and I've never regretted about it. Firstly, I was really surprised by this system. It was completely new for me. I realized that this program has a lot of advantages. It always gives me extra hints and tips and makes it easier to remember new words and new material. Another student stated, "This program is really cool because I can instantly see my results on each task and learn from my mistakes. Constant practice helps me to achieve better scores and it really motivates me." So, if you look at this graph, you'll see that on the question whether they find it useful or not, students answered either yes, always, 44.4%, or sometimes 47.6%, with just 3% difference between these two answers. And only a small minority of participants, exactly 7.9%, answered that there was no use in my English lab for them at all.
After that, we decided to find out about students' preferences, and we asked them which type of assignment do they like most and least. So here's what students said. There is a great variety of activities, from doing vocabulary quizzes and grammar exercises to watching inspirational videos, so it never bores me. Such an interactive way of learning gives me a lot of benefits. I find vocabulary and listening tasks the most useful because it's the best way to learn new words for me. So, as you can see in the percentage bar chart, students enjoy doing vocabulary tasks and BBC interviews. That's why they are the leaders of the chart. However, grammar tasks are the least favorite. To find out about this tendency to dislike grammar tasks, we asked students, and we will tell you about it later.
So the next graph shows the result of a poll in which students were asked about their preferred devices for accessing my English lab. And from this pie chart, it's clear that the majority of students, 85.7%, prefer using personal computers or laptops. Mobile phone accounts for 14.3% of students' preferred devices. And here, what students say. I'd like to do my homework using my smartphone, but the program's interface on the phone is completely the same as the one on the laptop, so I always have to zoom in and zoom out to make tasks readable, so it makes it a bit uncomfortable. I prefer doing tasks in my English lab on the laptop, as I've tried doing them using my phone, and I realized that the phone version doesn't really suit me. So, as you can understand, the main reason why students prefer using either a laptop or a personal computer is that they find the interface of the phone version less convenient for usage.
And now let's move on to the next point of our survey. Here we ask students whether they like my English lab interface or not. And according to the pie chart, 3/4 of the students are satisfied with my English lab settings and design. However, 25% disliked it. And we believe that it has a clear connection to the students' discontent with its phone version, which we have discussed previously.
And at the end of our survey, we encourage students to share their thoughts on whether they would like to change anything in my English lab, and hear the answers.
First of all, the most common problem is the lack of explanation in the description of tasks, and therefore wrong evaluation of answers. As we have mentioned before, grammar tasks are the least favorite among students, which was caused by this issue. And according to the students' comments, sometimes it's hard to understand the logic of the evaluating system. For example, writing a full stop at the end of sentence or not using reductions is not a mistake, but during evaluation, it becomes one. It has no relation to the level of knowledge, so it's really frustrating. I am very unsatisfied with the way this program determines your mistakes. You may lose your points simply because of an extra dot or capitalized letter. That demotivates me. So we suggest improving the system of checking answers. It would be better to warn students about writing rules, if any, and point out the specifics of the tasks. We are people after all, and we are not machines.
The next point is technical errors. We notice that sometimes the program thinks of the right answer as the wrong one. To illustrate this point, we want you to look at this screenshot. Here, a student was assigned to write sentences using words in brackets. And if we compare the wrong answer with the right one, we'll notice that the only difference between these two answers is that the wrong one doesn't have a full stop. However, the following sentences, they are written without it, and they are still correct. And it's a pretty common situation which happens during estimation, and sometimes it really demotivates students. So we want you to pay your attention to this issue and at least try to change it.
Although the majority of students expressed satisfaction with the progress in the study of English that they're making using My English Lab, some of them would like to alter several tasks to make the educational progress more effective. They believe that the assignments aimed to improve listening skills have its flaws. For example, all listening tasks and BBC interview contain a script right under the audio or video. We believe that it's a great idea to have it because it helps students to just check their knowledge. Yeah. And, but a lot of students are tempted to open the script, copy the answer needed, and put it in the gap without listening at all, while others are trying to complete the tasks without peeping. And it leads to unfair evaluation of students' knowledge and gaining no progress in practicing their listening skills. To work out this program, we suggest removing scripts and showing them after finishing the tasks. We believe that this way would be much more productive, helpful, and fair.
Since smartphones and other portable devices are the most popular among youth, it's natural, it's clear that we want to use them for doing our home assignments. And it was said many times before today that the phone version of My English Lab is quite uncomfortable, and you may understand the reason why just looking at the screenshot of phone version right here. So we suggest designing an app with a handy interface. Aside from traditional tasks, it would be great to add there something like vocabulary with flashcards to help students to memorize new words better. What's more, we'll be really grateful if the app will notify us about the deadlines.
So, overall, after 1 year of working with My English Lab, we can say that it's a great way of interactive learning, and we would like to continue using it. We would never give up the opportunity of working with it, but it still needs some improvements. And we hope that our suggestions will be taken into consideration and that our feedback will improve My English Lab and it will help students get better results. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your attention.
And,
and now we want to introduce the student of second year study, Елизавета. She'll tell her own opinion about My English Lab on behalf of every student.
Hello, everybody. I'm the second year student, and today I want to share with you my own experience of using My English Lab. Frankly speaking, last year I was really surprised with the fact that we would use an electronic copybook on the platform named My English Lab. At school, I got used that my teacher, unfortunately, spent a lot of time checking our workbooks, and it was really awful because we received our results at least in a week. But now we have absolutely another situation with My English Lab. It gives you a great opportunity to see your results immediately after doing the tasks, and to my mind, it's one of the most important advantages of this program. As any other things in our life, it also has some disadvantages, but it's okay, nothing is perfect. Unfortunately, I faced many times with the same problem, and it's not only mine, as the statistic shows. It usually happens that My English Lab doesn't want to accept the right answer because of the absence of shortening or the presence of retreats or something like this. And when we see that our answers are defined as incorrect, as wrong, it really makes us upset. To my mind, My English Lab should provide a small warning or instruction how to use it properly, including all its exceptions that we must know before doing the tasks. In spite of this, My English Lab is very flexible. It means that you can do your task in any place where you can find the access to the internet. So you don't need to take all your copybooks as we did it before, just your knowledge and your mobile phone. As for tasks, I'm really impressed with BBC videos. I consider it the most interesting part, and it always develops our ears at listening. It's really cool when you can watch and listen at the same time. And that's why our students really prefer to watch different films or serials. In conclusion, I may say it's a really eye-opening experience. We live in a modern society that constantly develops and invents new technologies, and my English lab is no exception. So let's work and try to improve my English lab together. Thank you.
You know, I think Pearson just found a perfect advertising campaign. It's okay, nothing's perfect. A couple of things I would say. First of all, fantastic job. You have a great future in public speaking. Second, it's quite surprising, really. When you looked at the chart, it said that 90-something% of students found it useful. And actually, what are they talking about here? They're talking about homework. And I think if we go out and we speak to students on the street and say, do you find homework useful? We'd be very lucky to get 90% responses of yes. My English lab is not something that is perfect. And it's not something that is completely dead. It's something that we are updating all of the time in response to suggestions from teachers and in response to suggestions from students. So you just said that it would be really great to have some extra activities that can help you practice vocabulary. Actually, from this year, there is. When you use Speak Out now, in every unit you also get access to Quizlet, vocabulary quizzes. And you said as well that it would be great if you could get notifications about when the homework is, and you can. And I'll show you how to do that. So if you want, when you sign up, everybody signs up with an email address, and there is a notification that you can turn on, and it will warn you 3 hours before the homework is due to be submitted. And the capital letters and the punctuation, I know it's annoying, I always miss full stops off myself, but there is something inside the system you can change for this as well. I completely agree with the tape script. It's fantastic, but teachers sometimes ask me, will my English lab stop students from cheating? And the simple answer is, nothing in the world will stop students from cheating, except the realization that who are they really cheating? They're only cheating themselves, because they're learning languages. And ultimately, like Evan said before, the evaluation of your language ability is not just a series of marks, is not just a piece of paper that you can wave around. The evaluation of your language ability is, can you do what those students just did and stand here and use your English ability? I thought that was fantastic, but it isn't all. Because my English lab isn't only being used at one university, it's being used at universities all around the country. We could have invited students from Lutsk, from Kharkiv, from Lviv, from many other cities, from Odessa, from Poltava, but it's a bit far to travel on a Friday. So instead, we've invited a student actually, from another university in Kiev, but she's a very special student because she came all the way from Uzhgorod to be here. So I'd like to introduce some more special My English Lab users from the National University of Economics, Lena Sakun, and I forgot your name, it's terrible of me, yes? Victoria. Nicola. So there you go. Thank you very much. There you
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great privilege for me to be here and to share a digital university strategy, CNEO case, with you. As everyone knows, we live in times of the fourth industrial revolution characterized by the usage of artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and augmented reality.
And these things add value to all the stages of a business model. And at CNEL, we have built this particular model. According to Boston Consulting Group Report 2018, Digital Leapfrogs, Global Challenges. Global challenges develop their digital capabilities in three main ways. They invest in internal innovation programs, research and development. They pursue partnerships, join digital ecosystems, or establish their own. According to the report produced by PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, universities are competing globally for students, faculty members, finance, and only those stay relevant and leverage new digital capabilities will benefit in this digital age. In an increasingly competitive higher education sector, universities need to differentiate themselves through new and emerging business models, one of which is to become a digital leader. So, what are the barriers to going digital? Of course, understanding that universities have a new breed of customers that they need to engage with, the competitors they have to compete with in a new and different ways, a culture that inhibits the rapid development and release of new technology, an inability to simultaneously evolve existing ways of working, adding new techniques, tools, and capabilities, lack of trust in digital services and cloud technologies, or concerns about their reliability, security, and resilience. Moreover, university IT departments are often blamed for that they are not well equipped to do so. Inflexible policies, aging infrastructure, inexperience working with digital agencies may delay or prevent new digital initiatives from taking shape. So, how to successfully harness digital? First of all, to understand that digital transformation, digitization, digitalization, and finally, eventually, digital transformation affects every part of the university, not just IT. Just link all digital activities to the university's overall vision and strategy. Invest in communities built around willing and capable digital innovators. And people sitting in front of me in this particular hall can be referred to as digital innovators, people who motivate, who encourage others to use technology in class. Moreover, just to adopt a design approach that focuses on customer need, not university internal structure. So the digital blueprint for students implies that students understand what to study. They can easily find information about courses and drill down into richer course content and communities. They get their support, and our students have mentioned that, for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it supports students with academic attainment and achievement using digital channels. They get insight and analytics, and students understand their performance and potential from collected data. Just before this particular session, we talked to people from Pearson who mentioned the fact that big data, well, of course, just was used by Pearson professionals in developing new books. Of course, it provides students live platform. It highlights student communities, extracurricular activities, discounts in local area. Today, we have mentioned the necessity to think about employability of our students, as we have to prepare them for the life after getting a degree. As faculty members, just using different platforms and technologies, we get support in our teaching activities. We just get analytical information and may assess performance and potential from collected data, and we may participate just in different research activities. Moreover, it encourages collaboration across disciplines for research opportunities, publication, production. So, digital in everything we do approach implies that that universities create flexible digital collaboration spaces with access to video screens, power, and provide good wireless connectivity on campus and in halls of residence. IT departments become a forward-looking department that track new technology trends and advise how this can be used to deliver new capabilities and outcomes for the university, and revise policies and procedures so that just the use of digital technology is enhanced. Now, we have been cooperating with Pearson since pre-Google, pre-Facebook, pre-Twitter times. And it's interesting that we took part in the pilot project at CNEO just in 2012. And since that time, we just have been using my lab effectively, efficiently, paying attention to employability of our students. And we can just reassure everyone that it helps to personalize the learning experience. It provides students with detailed help they need, when they need it. They use resources they find the most useful, including video, examples, ETS review sections. Following alongside the course, just my English lab activates the content students complete in a workbook, in an interactive and engaging environment, and they can answer just a range of questions. They may write essays, listen to audio recordings, their voices online. Students can access all the content in one place, receive instant feedback on each task, helping to build confidence and improve their mistakes. And as it has already been mentioned by our colleagues, just faculty members can focus their valuable time on areas they are needed the most. So, what do our alumni say? It's interesting that Yuri Vilchinsky, currently working at McKinsey, just big 3 consulting company, once took an active part in just the pilot project that implied using my English lab in 2012. He says that digital components in education are opening new horizons. They allow students to stay sharp in terms of recent disruptions in society and cultivate ambition. Today we listened during our first session to the story with encyclopedias and technologies. As we know, Wikipedia disrupted the business of producing encyclopedias. If we have a look at the example of Katerina Frolenko, our second alumni, who also took an active part in a pilot project to do with my English lab long ago, the person who is currently working for Procter & Gamble, she said that digital technology creates competitive advantage and increases the value of the product to the customer. Digital skills acquired at the university helped her a lot in getting a job in one of the most digitally enabled companies in the world. Our third just graduate, who has produced her thesis dedicated to the competitiveness of national higher education system, mentioned that with the right digital skills, university graduates can become actors of sustainable economic transformation, facilitating the competitiveness of their country. And now I would like to give the floor to our second-year student, the colleague of students from the University of Trade and Economics, who will share her experience of using my lab.
So, good afternoon. My name is Nicole Korolchuk. I'm a second-year student at Kyiv National Economic University, and it's a great honor and pleasure for me to be here today. How would you describe our modern world in one word? I shall say change. Overall, there have always been changes for the better or worse. Even after 1 year studying using Market Leader, I believe that we're truly privileged to have access to such books and tools with great content and unbiased view on the tendencies of the 21st century, empowered by state-of-the-art technology. Due to the robust progress and development of the past 2 years, the advances have been so remarkable that we cannot omit them. The definition of 2018 is digitalization. And our course most definitely illustrates this. As conventional wisdom states, technology can become the wings that will allow the educational world to fly faster and faster than ever before. Certainly, we get access to the useful source of knowledge everywhere, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's no longer about one's geographical location, status, gender, financial abilities, whatsoever. Digitalization is about enabling the outstretched educational system to keep pace with the growing needs and aspirations of increasingly globalized society. The great examples are materials provided by well-known educational giant Pearson. Those are powerful study books with supportive online platforms developed to enrich our experience. So, for instance, we use MarkLeader, which covers a wide range of topics about almost everything there is to know. In addition to this, we have access to MyLab. As it has been mentioned by my colleagues, MyLab is a flexible online tool designed to enrich our experience in order to deliver a better learning outcome. So, basically, it gives real examples on tackling and even redefining complex modern issues by providing us with a variety of interactive activities and tasks integrated with the course syllabus. We have everything: interviews, lectures, task exercises within one little touch. Furthermore, it gives unbiased assessment of our skills as well as other beneficial types of assessments. Certainly, we're all interested in tremendous accomplishments. Just like the successful CNEO graduates, our goal is to become powerful leaders both economically and socially, get a great job, and to some extent change the world to the better. Although, being a leader requires huge amounts of talent, courage, time, energy, and business acumen. Market Leader teaches us that modern disruptive innovations are changing the needed qualities of leaders. In the world where agility has become decisive, decentralized organization, entrepreneurial culture and mindset, as well as ethical principles, are of primary importance. As Peter Drucker said, people are an organization's most valuable assets. We are to keep to integrity, respect, flexibility, equality, courage, and transparency in order to become a leader not only in the digital sector, but in any sphere of life. By the way, studying it now, we've analyzed dozens of annual reports, and Pearson's annual report 2017 is not an exception. And we're reassured that Pearson is a great example of a corporation being a good citizen. So they're not just writing about it, they set real example. According to Unit 11 of Market Leader, we must always be sincere, ethical, and thus able to justify our actions and decisions. To sum up, having analyzed such determinants for the future development of leaders as using digital technologies as MyLab, learning with such empowering materials provided by educational giants as Pearson, respecting the ethics, and using the opportunities of disruptive innovations, we can draw the following conclusions. We are the masters of our bright, promising, sustainable, and successful future. Thank you for your attention, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow, okay. So I'd like to say a huge thank you to Lena, to Julia, to Nicole, to Kasusha, to Polina, and to Lisa. You were all great. Thank you very much. Now, the reason we wanted feedback from students and teachers is, well, it's an important, fundamental part of what we do. Our company slogan is always learning. So we listen, we develop, and we find solutions to help you teach and learn better. If you're already using My English Lab, and I know lots of you in this room are, then we're always interested in finding out how you and your students use it. If you're not already using My English Lab, then what can you do? Well, if you want to find out more, if you're here tomorrow or if you're leaving now, there's a stand in the corner of the room where you can find out more information and you can see how it works in practice. But what we also do is this. If you're teaching at a university and you're interested in finding out how My English Lab works, we can come, we can speak to you, we can speak to your students, and we can also help you to set up small pilot groups where you and a few of the students can start working with My English Lab and see for yourselves how it works. What does it give you? I work with My English Lab myself. I've worked with it since 2013, and I've seen all of the changes from the beginning until now. And I think what it gives you, two things. One, more time, and two, more flexibility. You know, this used to be frightening technology. The question isn't, should we use technology? That question's gone. Goodbye. Really, in the modern world, with students, as you've seen on this stage, the question is only what technology should we use? So thank you very, very much for your attention. I'll be back tomorrow. I hope you will be too, and I'll pass you over to Svetlana.
Thank you, Michael, but that's it for today. Actually, the last remark, well, I hope it's been a fantastically interesting and productive day and more sessions to come tomorrow. But remember that you would need to register for tomorrow's sessions, even if you have registered today. So waiting for you tomorrow, well, starting at 10 o'clock a.m., the registration is open. The first session starts at 11, so more sessions from Evan Frando, from Michael Hudson, and not only. So see you tomorrow. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
We have some potential buyers from a Mexican chain.
It's the same story with our budget.
I totally understand your concern.
It's the same story with our budget.
Pedro, sorry. The most important thing for you.
When we're just being ourselves, we often try to influence people using our own natural style.